35% of Americans felt like they were significantly behind when it comes to saving for retirement. That's according to Bankrate's retirement survey. Now, one asset that you may not have considered adding to your retirement portfolio, cryptocurrency. Joining me now in studio with more, we've got Chris Klein, who is the COO and co-founder of Bitcoin IRA. Chris, great to have you here in studio with us. Now, you say that there are three things that typically draw investors to crypto. So let's start with asymmetry. Why is that appealing?
Just getting yourself as a potential hedge against other problems in the marketplace. Also just getting off of zero and having an opportunity. This is a big shift in monetary policy that's happening. And for the first time in about 100 years from the White House, we're getting executive orders that are saying, hey, this is time for national sovereignty and for individuals like yourself, individual sovereignty with your portfolio.
You're also looking at this as an inflation hedge. That's part of the top three things that you're looking for and reasons why investors tend to turn to Bitcoin for retirement savings. Just break that down for us in the inflation hedge that Bitcoin could be for retirement savings.
So it comes down to scarcity. There's only 21 million Bitcoin that'll ever exist. 19.5 million of them are accounted for. We haven't seen this kind of scarcity since the 1920s, 1930s. So to get, there'll be a day where they'll say, wow, you're a one Bitcoiner, and it'll be a life-changing experience for those folks.
Interesting. And lastly, within that, volatility and hedging against volatility. I mean, Bitcoin and crypto more broadly initially and continue to be known as a more volatile asset. So how does having engaging that volatility, how does that work within a retirement strategy?
Well, you're more of a long-term thinker, or as we call long-term hodlers in the crypto space. So when you're in your retirement setting, you're thinking 3, 5, maybe even 7 to 10 years out. But volatility is a reality walking in, and especially this year, we're going to have price discovery. Tom Lee and others are calling for maybe $200,000, $250,000 for a Bitcoin. We're sitting just around 102 today. So as we reach each of those new zones, expect more volatility. But it's part of the process, and also downline, we have about 80 currencies on our platform. So you've got Ethereum, it's going to have its growth, and other tokens.
And so we've got kind of three buckets of investors that we're also looking across, or retirement savers that I should say we're looking across here too. You've got the risky, you've got the moderate, and then you also have the what could be called the crypto curious or the risky curious or the conservative retirement savers out there as well. Within all of those buckets that we lay out here, how do you kind of break them down and ultimately give them perhaps a roadmap?
Absolutely. Well, one thing to point out is we found that 75% of our clients were born before 1976. So it's not a young man or woman's game as most folks expect. When you're looking at your risk aversion or your risk tolerance, getting off zero is just critical. So you don't want to be left behind when it comes to the cryptocurrency or Bitcoin revolution that's taking place. I think a big thing is just to look at your contribution for the year. You can do up to $8,000. What a great plan, what a great place to get off zero and get started in a very small fashion.
You know, while we have you here too, there's been so much focus around a strategic Bitcoin reserve here. How does that need to be built out in order for it to benefit holders of Bitcoin and retirement savers too, who are now using this as a key asset for building wealth?
You go back to the scarcity first. We've been talking about the reserve since July at the Nashville conference, where Senator Loomis announced that she put legislation up. This is, you know, he who holds the gold makes the rules. He who holds the Bitcoin will play by the new rules that take place. So you have nation states like Bhutan, Argentina, El Salvador, the United States, others that are announcing they're going to accumulate a piece 1 to 5% of their GDP. And then you have individuals and institutions that are saying, okay, well, if we're going to put on the balance sheet for the country, I better have it on the balance sheet for me as an individual household owner. Because if you think about the country, you have a lot of debt. You've got high rates for that, maybe going down, but probably not today, but maybe going down in the future. And you've got to balance that out with hard assets. As an individual, the same thing. We carry debt, we carry mortgages and other things. This is a hard asset that you can have to balance out your portfolio.
And so how does this play out in policy? What do we need to see come from either the White House or the SEC within that?
Well, first was the executive order was very welcoming. First executive order in 100 years that actually celebrated individual sovereignty in this country. If you go back to FDR's confiscation of gold in the 30s, you go to Nixon in the 70s where they took us off the gold standard, this is the first time where individual sovereignty is being applauded in an executive order. But they don't make the laws. I mean, we all know I'm a bill on Capitol Hill, right? We remember that. So it's got to go through Congress. I think it's going to be spearheaded by the subcommittee, and we'll get some legislation. I would probably probably by April or May, we'll start seeing what this is actually going to look like. But in the meantime, average Americans don't have to wait. They can get off zero today.
All right. A lot of people who had Schoolhouse Rock on their bingo cards at home celebrating today. Appreciate it, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.